caught wife cheating with coworkers, served divorce papers, got her fired, and crushed her in court. I, 45M, have been married to my wife, 42F, for about 18 years now. She works in marketing at the regional branch of a well-known company, and I work in a senior role at a software company. We've both been relatively career-focused go-getters, and I think that's part of what drew us to one another. You likely won't be surprised to hear that we don't have any children. But we've never really felt like we wanted them, and I personally don't think anyone should take the decision to have kids lightly. In a marriage as long as ours, we've never had any issues regarding unfaithfulness, which is something I've always been thankful for. I've always felt like we've been too busy climbing the ladder to be fooling around. That was likely a stupid assumption, because I know that anyone who wants to cheat will make time for it if they really want to. But there simply wasn't any reason for me to suspect her of infidelity. And I used that notion to buttress my peace of mind. The worst part is that, until it happened, I didn't even know better. There were literally no signs, as far as I know. Maybe if I had paid more attention, I would have seen it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The entire thing started when my wife got a promotion at work, about a year ago. She works extremely hard and has been with her company for over a decade. One day, she came back to tell me she got a major promotion and was now in an executive position. That was huge, because as I've said, we've always been very career-focused. And while there were signs she might be chosen, we simply weren't sure. So it was massive when it got confirmed. The position came with new responsibilities, but it also came with a massive pay increase, which was, of course, one of the best parts. Now, for the most part, nothing really changed. She was keeping slightly later nights, though nothing too crazy. And if you're a top marketing executive, it doesn't seem surprising that your hours might be longer, at least in the initial period as you settle in. There were still days when she'd get back early, which was nice. But for the most part, instead of getting back around 6 p.m. like she used to, it'd be like 7:30 or 8. I told her to take it easy every once in a while, but we're both workaholics, so I knew my words wouldn't change much. It was about 2 weeks ago that things changed. A lot. It started with a message someone sent me on LinkedIn. I'm always ready to answer messages, because it's all business for me. But this message was simply a greeting, and I checked the person's profile before responding. They worked at the same company that my wife did, though their role was clearly junior. It was a lady, so I'll just say her name was Suzette. I responded with a similar greeting, knowing she'd eventually come out with what she wanted. But it wasn't until the next day after work hours that she actually replied. She asked, "Are you wife's name's husband?" I told her I was. At that point I knew it had nothing to do with business. My first thought? This was some pathetic girl trying to poach a married man or something. I mean, I really couldn't come up with another reason why someone like her was messaging me, and leading with a question like that. I answered in the affirmative. Then came this message. "I really would like to talk to you about something private, but I don't know if you're open. It's about your wife." That message came separately, and that's when I started to feel anxious. I thought something might have been wrong with my wife, like she had been in an accident or something. But this message had been sent since yesterday, so it was definitely something else. Then I started to wonder, was my wife too combative and bossy at work? Was she essentially a bully? Eventually, I settled on that idea. She must want to report my wife to me, perhaps before reporting her to HR. So I told Suzette that I was open to hearing what she had to say. She proposed a meeting in person at a neutral spot, but I really didn't feel comfortable with that, so I told her to say what she wanted to say right there. I needed to have written proof of whatever it was she wanted to say. She seemed hesitant, but eventually agreed. She sent me a paragraph, and it was very shocking to read. "I don't know if you're the kind of person who prefers ignorance, or whether you would want to know, but I know with certainty that your wife is sleeping with some of the junior employees. Maybe you both have an arrangement, and if so, please forgive me for intruding. But I think it wouldn't be fair for you to be in the dark about this. I really beg that you don't mention my name if you do decide to confront her. I know this could cost me my job, but I'm really just trying to do the right thing, and I hope you can appreciate that. I read that message over about 5 times before what it was actually saying started to sink into my head. She was saying that my wife was sleeping with junior coworkers? Was that even something I could believe? I hadn't seen a single sign of that. She never smelled like someone else's perfume. She never acted even mildly different when she returned from work. To be honest, the only thing I could point to was her coming home later than she used to, and that could line up with this new theory. It took me quite some time before I replied to her. I told her I was grateful that she told me, and that her admission was going to be saved with me. About 10 minutes later, a bunch of questions started flooding my head. Asterisk, how many employees? Asterisk, when did this start? Asterisk, did they do things at work? Asterisk, how did she even know about it? I asked her every single one of those questions in a single message. She responded, I don't know for sure. But at least 2, because I overheard them talking about it. That's how I found out. Maybe it was some kind of inside joke, but they sounded serious. And they tend to work late nights. I assumed they might be doing things in the building, but I don't have an answer for that. I heard their conversation about 2 months ago, and it's been eating me up. I saw her whispering to one of these guys somewhere discreet, and that's what brought it back to the forefront of my mind. I just had to say something, and I'm sorry that it took me so long to. I report directly to her, so I feel like a traitor. I don't hate her or dislike her, but it just wasn't right. Honestly, most of me believed this lady. But I couldn't understand why. Maybe because it just seemed so improbable that someone would go to these lengths to lie to me. Could this be some workplace rival trying to ruin her career, and our family? I couldn't know. And because I personally hadn't even had an inkling of doubt in my wife, part of me didn't want to believe it. But for some reason, it seemed credible. I thanked the lady quite extensively and told her I would act on the information as I thought appropriate, but she would be left out of it. I wanted to confront my wife about it. See her reaction. But it would be too easy for her to deny it. She could lie right through it. It was clear as day. My best choice was to see what I could dig up. That way, I'd either find no evidence, and be able to debunk what the lady told me, or I'd find proof to back it up. Then I'd take things from there. So I decided to be patient, and wait for a good opportunity to do my snooping. When my wife came home that night, things were normal. And I did my best to act as normal as possible around her. It wasn't too hard, because I wasn't entirely convinced yet. My chance to snoop came about 4 days later, when my wife went to the salon to get her hair done. She almost always brought her laptop with her, but this time, she didn't. Her password isn't a secret to me, so I was able to log right in. Since she uses a MacBook, I was able to check her messages app. Based on what the lady had told me, I was looking for conversations with younger men, people who seemed like they worked under her. But I could hardly recognize any of the names. So I decided to simply go through as many of those messages as possible. I saw a preview of a message with the text, "I'll call you when I get back." The sender? DoorDash. I could have laughed, despite myself. So I opened it up and started to go through the entire thread. Apparently, she had saved the contact, which belonged to some guy called John, as DoorDash, to make things less suspicious, in case I just happened to see a message from him pop up. At that moment, I was absolutely furious. By the time I got to the part where they were sending steamy texts back and forth, I almost lost my mind. He had sent her pictures, she hadn't sent him any, but she responded very positively to his. At one point I realized I had just been staring blankly at the screen for a few minutes. Honestly, it's hard for me to express how heartbreaking it was to discover that. I decided to leave the chat, but not before I recorded as much as I could as evidence. After that, I went back to the Messages app and continued scrolling through other conversations, trying to find if there were more people she was having affairs with. I'm not going to bore you with every detail, but there were 2 other employees. I could tell they were coworkers because work was mentioned in maybe 5% of the texts, while the other 95% was just, explicit stuff. Judging by their profile pictures, none of these men could have been over the age of 30, which, somehow, made it feel even worse in my head. I took all the evidence I could gather. And honestly, I'm baffled about what to do next. Is it really as easy as just confronting her and going for a divorce? Is that all I'm going to do? This is a woman who comes home every single day, kisses and hugs me, and acts like there's absolutely nothing wrong. We've even slept together several times since her affairs started, and now, I know it's an absolute priority that I get tested. I'm going to do that. But I want to figure something else out, and I need opinions on it. Should I just leave it at divorce? Or should I hit her harder than that? Because this is the worst form of betrayal, and I genuinely can't stomach her anymore. Edit. I'm just finishing a long day of work, and I appreciate all the advice and comments I've received regarding my predicament. Someone said that I only have one chance to get back at her, because once I've divorced her and left those years behind, I won't be able to act on my pain anymore. I know this isn't something I'll stop feeling anytime soon, so I'm ready to make sure I use this chance to get back. I'm not going to stoop to the level of cheating back. I don't even have the urge to do that. But I will figure something out, and I will update you all when I get to that point. Well, it sounds like your wife really did take her job to heart when she said she was climbing the corporate ladder. I mean, who knew she was so committed to networking in more ways than one? On a serious note though, discovering something like this must feel like getting a software update that crashes your entire system. I guess she wasn't just debugging code at work, huh? At least now, I've seen the truth for what it is. No more illusions. No more assumptions. Time to uninstall the virus, for good. You have concrete evidence that she's been multitasking, balancing spreadsheets and steamy texts. If you decide to confront her, maybe ask if this was her version of work-life balance gone terribly wrong. And hey, at least you found out now instead of being blindsided years later. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a CEO of revenge promotion out of this. After all, she did show you the importance of seizing opportunities, even if it was just in the wrong department. Update. Hey everyone, I wrote an earlier post about my wife, who was promoted and started cheating on me with her junior employees. About 3 of them, that I know about. It's been several months since then, and I forgot about updating you in the midst of all the drama in my life. But now that things are over, trust me, it came to mind. And I'm here to tell you all how things played out. Spoiler alert, it's all good news. When I finally decided that I was going to confront my wife about the entire thing, the first thing I did was go get an STD test done. The result? Gonorrhea. Fortunately, I was asymptomatic, and I was given a prescription to get it treated. But I was super pissed off, because she's the only woman I've slept with since we got married. So I certainly didn't get it from anyone but her. And she likely got it from one of her new sexual partners. It was at that point that I became absolutely certain I was going to confront her. When she arrived home that night, I was in the living room. I asked her to sit down before she could even take off her coat. She seemed concerned, but I don't think she knew exactly what was going on. I know you've been cheating on me. That's exactly how I said it. I watched as she deflated and held her face in her hands. I mentioned the names of the people she was cheating with, at least the ones I had confirmed. I basically told her everything I knew, though I didn't tell her how I found out. Then I hit her with, "One of your boyfriends gave you gonorrhea, which he gave to me too." I remember holding up the test in front of her face. She peeked at it, then hid her face again. Honestly? That pissed me off even more. I sat there, waiting for her to say something. She wasn't crying. And I knew that she had heard every word I said. It took about 3 minutes before she looked up, shook her head, and finally said, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." The way she said it? That would have worked if she had scratched my dream car. But not for cheating on me with multiple men. I don't even have any excuse. I can't defend myself. I thought you'd never find out. I don't even know how you found out. Right now, I hate myself for doing this to you. I'm so sorry. Toward the end, her voice started to quiver. But genuinely? It didn't mean anything to me. I could see she was crying at that point, but she wasn't sobbing or breaking down. It didn't move me. You're not sleeping here tonight. Find somewhere else. I'm going to be looking for a divorce lawyer first thing in the morning, and I suggest you do too, so we can make this fast. It was only at that point that she said the only thing remotely close to begging. Baby, we've been together nearly 20 years, can't we? And then she trailed off. I think she wanted to ask if we could work things out, but I think she recognized that wasn't possible, considering how deep her transgressions were. In response, I only told her that I'd wait in the living room while she packed any of the things she needed for the next week. We arranged for her to get more of her stuff later. She stood up and went to the bedroom, and that was all that was made out of our conversation. Probably the most mature way to react to an F-up of that magnitude. She eventually left the house, and the next phase was the divorce stage. We both got lawyers. The papers were served and signed very quickly, and we eventually got into the proceedings. Fortunately for me, I had all the evidence of her infidelity, including my STD test, and it was presented in a very effective way by my divorce lawyer, who was a total rock star. Things went on for a bit, but ultimately ended in my favor. Because my ex-wife's promotion meant she started earning significantly more than me, I ended up getting a pretty nice alimony judgment, even though I really didn't need it. I'll probably just use it to pay for a hobby or two. The house was a tough one, because we co-owned it. But with her higher income, she'd be better set to find a new residence. I got that one too. We each had cars, she kept hers, naturally, but there was no easy way for me to get that from her. As things went, that was how we finally split ways for good. And I was very happy with what I got. But I wasn't done. I really wanted to go after her affair partners, but after thinking about it, I decided not to. These people were employees, and it was hard to be sure they weren't coerced into it at the start, regardless of how much they seemed to enjoy it later. She took advantage of them as their boss. It was too messy, and not worth the effort. But regarding her? That was easy. I made a report to HR at her company, from an anonymous address. I let them know that one of their top-level executives was coercing junior employees into sleeping with her, and I recommended they open an investigation. That happened. And long story short, she was found guilty of the allegations. Several junior employees directly beneath her were questioned. There even seemed to be a fourth person I had never found out about. The lady who had exposed the affairs to me in the first place was feeding me inside updates. All I got officially was an email saying an investigation was commencing, and then another saying it had been completed. Her punishment? She lost her job. I know it won't be too hard for her to find a new one based on merit, but with sexual misconduct allegations following her around, she's not going to have an easy time. As far as I know, she's still searching. Yes, I know it jeopardizes my alimony, but I really didn't need it to survive. Plus, she's got more than enough in the bank to still fulfill her payments. If she doesn't, I don't mind going to court again. That's not my problem. We've probably spoken twice since the divorce, and it was all about formalities related to splitting our lives for good. I personally don't want to have to talk to her ever again. And the way things are going, I probably won't need to. Honestly, life is good as it is. And although revenge doesn't completely erase the pain of being cheated on by your longtime wife, it does a hell of a good job at it. It feels good. And I'm glad I went through with it. Not only did you manage to catch her red-handed with the junior team, but you also got a surprise gonorrhea delivery from her DoorDash service. I guess in her new executive role, she really mastered the art of employer relations. As for her post-disease delivery job hunt, her new skill set clearly includes executive-level networking. Though I doubt her LinkedIn endorsements will list expertise in workplace fraternization. Kudos on the HR report move. She might have lost her job. But at least now, she's got a glowing recommendation for her next one. Great at climbing corporate ladders. Not so great at keeping them straight. Seriously though, It sounds like you've navigated this with a blend of clarity, self-respect, and just the right amount of revenge. Here's to hobbies funded by alimony and a life without gonorrhea. What do you think of OP's revenge? What would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.